We've all been there, right? You feel absolutely awful, you look at the thermometer, and that number starts climbing. And our first instinct? It's usually to panic a little. For pretty much our whole lives, we've been taught to see fever as the enemy, something to get rid of as fast as possible. But what if that's all wrong? What if a fever isn't the enemy at all? What if it's actually one of your body's most powerful, secret weapons? Let's get into the science behind the shivers.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Is a fever your friend or is it your foe? By the end of this, I promise you're going to have a totally new perspective. You'll see fever not as just some annoying symptom to be crushed, but as this, incredibly sophisticated defense system that your body uses with amazing precision. Okay, so let's get on the same page. What is a fever? Well, the clinical term is pyrexia, and really, it's just a temporary rise in your body temperature. It's a huge part of your body's inflammatory response, which is just a fancy way of saying it's your body's natural reaction to fighting off invaders, like bacteria or viruses. It's not the illness itself. It's a sign that your immune system is officially on the clock and working hard. And this is where we totally flip the script on how we think about this. See, a higher body temperature actually makes it a really terrible place for most germs to live, slowing down how fast they can multiply. At the same time, it supercharges your immune cells, making them way more effective. Plus, that higher metabolic rate, it helps speed up the repair of any tissues that got damaged. The takeaway here is pretty clear. Your body is cranking up the heat for some very, very good reasons.
So, how in the world does your body pull this off? I mean, it's not random. It's this highly controlled process that's run by a tiny but brilliant part of your brain. Let's take a look at how your internal thermostat actually works.
Deep in your brain, you've got this little thing called the hypothalamus. I want you to think of it as the command center for your body's temperature. It's just like the thermostat in your house. It has a set point, usually right around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is working constantly to keep you in that sweet spot. If you get too hot, boom, you start sweating. Too cold, you start shivering. It's always adjusting.
So when an infection starts, this amazing chain reaction kicks off. First, your immune cells spot the intruder, and in response, they release these special chemicals called pyrogens. These pyrogens then travel up to the brain and basically tell the hypothalamus, hey, produce this compound called PGE2. And this is the masterstroke. PGE2 literally hacks your internal thermostat and raises the set point. So your body is suddenly tricked into thinking it's cold, even when it's not, and it starts shivering and doing everything it can to generate heat. Incredible, right?
Okay, so your body is running this incredibly complex, deliberate program. But how do we on the outside track it accurately? Well, that brings us to the tools we all have in our medicine cabinets, and they pretty much fall into two main categories. The tools we use basically boil down to two types. First, you've got your contact methods. The classic oral or rectal thermometers. They require physical touch, and they're considered highly accurate. That's why they're the go-to in hospitals and for use at home. Then you have non-contact methods, like those infrared forehead scanners, which are amazing for quick screenings of a lot of people, where speed is more important than pinpoint precision.
So the fundamental trade-off is pretty simple. Contact methods are a little more invasive, yeah, but they give you a much truer reading of your body's actual core temperature. Non-contact methods, on the other hand, are super fast and easy, but they might be a tiny bit less precise. It's really all about picking the right tool for the situation. All right, let's zoom in on one of the most common methods we all use at home, taking your temperature orally. And you know what? Doing it the right way is absolutely key to getting a number you can trust.
There are a few simple but really crucial steps to get this right. First, you've got to wait at least 15 minutes after someone's had anything hot or cold to eat or drink. Always clean the thermometer and use a fresh probe cover. Then, place the tip way back under the tongue and have them close their lips, not their teeth, to hold it steady. Just wait for the beep and then, this is important too, write down the reading so you can keep track of it over time.
Now, while the oral method is super common and definitely reliable, it's not actually the gold standard. As the experts point out, a rectal temperature is, hands down, the most accurate measurement of your core body temp. The least accurate, that would be taking it on the skin or under the armpits. You should really only use those as a last resort if the other ways aren't possible.
So you can kind of think of it like a hierarchy or a ladder of accuracy. Right at the very top, you've got rectal. That's the most precise reading you can get. In the middle is oral, which is the reliable standard for most of us. And then down at the bottom is the armpit, which is the least precise of the three. Just knowing this helps you put the numbers you're seeing into perspective.
And hey, here's a super practical rule of thumb you can just tuck away in your brain. If you're ever comparing readings from different spots, just remember this. A rectal temperature will usually be about 1 degree Fahrenheit higher than an oral one, and an armpit temperature will be about 1 degree lower. Having that context is everything. So, what's the magic number? When are you officially in fever territory? Well, the clinical threshold for a fever is 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, or 38 degrees Celsius. If you're above that, yep, it's officially considered a fever.
Okay, before we wrap this up, there is one last absolutely critical distinction we need to make, because not all high temperatures are created equal, and mistaking one for the other can actually be pretty dangerous.
And this is the difference that matters most. A fever is an internal process. Your body intentionally raises its own thermostat. Hyperthermia, on the other hand, like with heat stroke, is when external heat just overwhelms your body's cooling system. Your body's set point is still normal, it's just failing to keep the temperature down. And because the causes are completely different, the treatments have to be completely different too. This is exactly why the treatments are polar opposites. Fever-reducing medicine works by blocking those chemicals, the pyrogens, that raise your thermostat's set point. But since hyperthermia has nothing to do with those chemicals, the medication is totally useless. Giving it to someone with heat stroke will do absolutely nothing to help them.
So we end right back where we started, but hopefully with a whole new way of looking at things. If a fever is a helpful tool that your body is using to fight off an infection, then maybe the fever itself isn't the real problem. And maybe getting better isn't just about forcing that number on the thermometer to go back down. It kind of makes you think, doesn't it?